And we're back with our favorite MVP of the game, SGT Gillen retired. And I have a visitor. I have a guest. And this is Staff Sergeant Lewis from the Air Force. Yeah, he's also an E5. How's that for crazy? Yeah, he's a staff sergeant.
As
yeah.
E5.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's funny. All right, so we were talking about how there's the Pogues, right? And then there's there's two different groups in the military. There's the giant picture, if you will, and then there's the grunts on the ground, and there's the first, those guys, and then you have the Air Force, and you have like a plane, and it's a lot of different people and different parts because planes are fucking huge. So it's like an assembly line. You got the tail, and then you have like the next group of people. They put together like the fuselage, and they all go up and they're like, "Oh, what do you do?" "I'm part of the wing." "Oh yeah, which wing are you?" "I'm the right wing." "Fuck the left wing." And the other guy's like, "Yeah, well, you know what? The right wing sucks dicks." Right? And there's that clash, kind of like, the scouts and the infantry. Yeah, so that's how the Air Force does it. And then, of course, you've got the nose of the aircraft, right? And those are the guys who are like, "Oh, man, you're out front," because they must be important because they're in the very front before everybody. Like scouts, how they're out front before everybody, leading the way, as they say. So, yeah, anyways, you were saying how I might have pointed at your picture. It's not quite exact.
Right. So, depending on what aircraft we're talking about, fighter aircraft, generally you've got three different career fields. You've got your crew chiefs, your specialists, and then you've got your weapons troops. Your crew chiefs generally tires, oils, bits of things with the engine, different little odds and ends. Generally, they're the ones that you'll see the name on the aircraft because they're the ones that are in charge of that. They deal with all the forms and documentation, make sure everything's right. Then you got your specialists, and there are actually a bunch of different little shops in there. They, guys that are specialized in just the engines, guys that specialize in the we call them E&E, the electrical environment, so all the wiring and whatnot on the aircraft. And then we got guys, avionics, that are in charge of all the radar and all the other like more electronic components of the aircraft. So that's what those guys take care of. And then you've got the weapons troops, which is what I do. We take and get ammo and munitions and other stuff from ammo, which is another section of the maintenance entirely. Those guys are the ones that actually build up the munitions and get all that kind of stuff. We take it from them, we load it onto the aircraft, and then we're also in charge of making sure that all the weapon systems on the aircraft are good to go. And then we go to heavies, cargo aircraft, stuff like that, and those guys have only just crew chiefs and specialists. They don't have weapon troops whatsoever. But usually, as Gillen was here, was talking about Pogues and actual grunts and whatnot. For the Air Force, we go with the term nonners, which are non-sortie productive personnel, which are basically anyone that doesn't deal anything with the flight line whatsoever, such as your maintenance and finance and fuck finance. They can never fucking pay anyone right, anyways.
Yeah,
but
everybody hates finance, everybody hates finance, and then when your pay's fucked up, it's like, oh, my pay's fucked up.
Oh, imagine that.
And then they're like, "Oh yeah, well you're welcome." After they fix it, like, "Oh, you're welcome for that." And you're like, "For fixing your fucking mistake?" When I come over to your house, like, nobody ever set somebody else's house on fire and then put out the fire and was called a hero. And they have, and then they found out later that they were the person that did it, and we all know how that turned out for them. But yeah.
I think they did a whole movie on that.
We've done a couple of movies like that.
It's called Backdraft.
Yeah. That was a good one.
Weird.
That was a good one, yeah.
Good movie. I haven't seen that in a while.
Yeah. Should watch that.
Do we have that movie?
I don't know. All right, so... Yeah.
Pogues and honors. Imagine. Worthless.
Yeah, you got your Pogues and your Super Pogues.
Oh, God.
And here's the other thing. If you don't know if you're a Pogue, smell yourself. Yeah? If you can't smell yourself, probably a Pogue.
Ooh, yeah.
Because, when you're, if you smell clean, probably a Pogue. If you're, oh yeah, and here's another tip. If you want to know if it's your Kevlar, if you want to know, like if you have your friend's Kevlar and your Kevlar, and they get mixed up, and you can't tell whose is whose, sniff the Kevlar. If it smells clean and you can't smell anything, that's your helmet. Because for whatever reason, your helmet will not stink to you. It will stink to everybody else, but your helmet does not stink to you. It's crazy.
It's because it's your own odor. You are used to your own odor.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, of course I'm used to my own odor. I smell like fucking man. I smell like fucking, a combination of gunpowder, fish guts, camping, smoke.
So I usually smell of hydraulic and fluid and fuels and God knows what other chemicals aircraft have.
It's pretty manly. Pretty fucking cool.
The smell of JPA is not pretty.
Depending on, like, what you put it in. Like, the smell of JP8 is kind of, it's got its own acquired taste to it, if you will.
Sure, we'll go with that.
Yeah. Yay for jet fuel. Alright, well, this has been another exciting episode of Terminal Sergeant. And as always, go scuff yourself.